Hello friends, Adam here with FED. I think it's about time we do the final Fire Emblem 3 Houses tier list. I've been playing this game for a long time now, since the day it came out. I'm playing it here on the channel. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on every character in the game. I've used them all to some extent, and I want to tell you what I think of them. Really, this is an excuse for me to just talk about the game and talk about every character. But along the way, I hope I can help you make your maddening playthrough a little easier. So if you look at the tiers here, I have them labeled in such a way that should give you an idea of whether or not they'll be good for your maddening playthrough. Because I know that's the biggest thing I get asked is, FED, what are some tips you have for a maddening playthrough or a maddening new game, fresh file playthrough, so you can get like the yellow screen and all that. Well, we're going to look at characters today, and I'm going to give you some tips and thoughts on them. That will make it so your maddening playthrough might be just a little bit easier. Now, this is just all my opinion. This isn't necessarily like hard and fast rule. This is just some guidelines that I think are true and that, have helped me out, So we're going to talk about every character in the game, what you might want to do with them, and we're going to try and go kind of fast because this is already going to be a long video. But I hope you guys will enjoy this talk here. And before we get started, please like the video and subscribe. If you haven't, that'd be cool. And be prepared to comment your thoughts as we go along. All right. So I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone that both the Byleths go into basically flawless. They make maddening much easier when used properly. So the Byleths have a couple of very unique things about them. Number one is their personal skill, which I believe is called Professor's Guidance. Gives plus 20% experience to adjacent allies. That alone makes them incredibly useful for raising your entire army, especially on maddening where the experience gain is cut severely. And the part of the game where you feel that the most is at the beginning of the game, where it's the most important too. Once you can level up the saint statues and stuff, the experience starts to be a little more bearable, a little more reasonable. But until then, Byleth is going to be your main way of making sure you get a decent amount of experience in that early game. So you should be killing stuff next to them. You should be healing them or healing units while next to them. Essentially using their personal skill as often as possible is going to make the game way easier for you. Way easier. Also, they get a couple of really good, unique skills that set them apart, as especially in the mid game. First, they get White Magic Avoid plus 20. So that means they could equip a heal spell, which is basically which they won't be weighed down by, right? And it makes them very dodgy. So plus 20 avoid. Combine that with their decent speed, and you put them in. You put them in a forest or something, they're going to dodge most attacks, which is very, very powerful, especially for chapters like 13 and 14, where the enemy is they just outpace you. They just do. It's hard. It's almost impossible to keep up unless you're going to grind very hard. So Byleth makes the game easier in every way. Really, they are just that good. Another thing to mention is Wind Sweep. I think Wind Sweep is a great combat art that bears mentioning. There's only one other unit that gets it, and I think Byleth uses it just better, just because they are a stronger, better unit overall. So yeah, Byleth is good. You can do magic, you can do physical, you can do anything you want with them. I personally find the most success with female Byleth in Darkflyer. I think Darkflyer is an incredibly good class overall. It is DLC, but if you have the DLC, might as well use it. And Byleth will have great speed in that class, and also will have the ability to fly, which is insane. And then we'll be able to take advantage of Avoid plus 20. You can even dismount and still get the benefit from like a forest or something. Male Byleth is a little trickier just because he doesn't have access to Darkflyer. I think Darkflyer really is one of the best classes in the game. But he could do something, Enlightened One is honestly fine for both of the Byleths as well. Again, allows you to make use of your White Magic Avoid plus 20 while also having decent physical stats. So Enlightened One might actually be their best class, but I think you could make a case for Darkflyer and for, I guess, Wyvern Lord and those kind of classes. So you really just can't go wrong with whatever you want to do with them, though. They're going to be good no matter what. But if you want the easiest time, in my opinion, throw them into something that can take good advantage of their White Magic Avoid plus 20. Okay. Edelgard. Again, basically flawless. I don't think Edelgard is as good as Byleth. Her personal skill just allows her to level up quickly, which combined with Byleth's can be really, really potent. Same goes for the other two main characters. Edelgard's doesn't really have any flaws. Amir is insane, right? Raging Storm, everyone knows Raging Storm is incredibly good. It can trivialize certain maps, just make it so you just win. Even like the final map of Crimson Flower. So yeah, Edelgard is basically flawless. There's not much going wrong for her as long as you keep her physical. There's an argument that she's like okay as a magical base unit, but there's really no need to go that way. As far as classes go, you can basically just keep her. You can keep her in her like main class line, Emperor, all that stuff. Or if you want something a little better, honestly, go into something like Wyvern Lord. You definitely want to get her Death Blow before too long. Definitely go through Brigand. Really can't go wrong with Edelgard as long as you stick physical. Again, magic. She has an interesting spell list, but it's not. Honestly, I don't think it's worth doing on maddening. Dimitri. I think Dimitri might be the best character in the game. It's a shame he's only available, on one route because, that's kind of how it works. But everyone knows at this point, I think, he gets Battalion Wrath and Battalion Vantage. That combined with a decent bow rank or even just a Retribution Gambit makes it so he just wins the game. Being able to use Battalion Wrath and Battalion Vantage, meaning you can have your battalion start at low HP or low endurance. So it's not like you need to work down to it, like normal Wrath and Vantage. You don't have to take damage. You can just have it from turn 1, which is really busted. It's as busted as it sounds. Just get a bunch of extra crit and always attack first. And you have a killer bow or something, or even not that. You can still do pretty well. So yeah, Dimitri's insane. Basically flawless. His only issue would be that you can't really train him much as far as ranks go in the beginning of part 2. Outside of that, though, he's insanely good. And his personal post time skip is incredible too. He gets a bunch of extra avoid when at full health. Yeah, because his his personal skill gets an upgrade. Incredibly good. I didn't mention Edelgard. She gets an upgrade to her personal skill as well, but it's bad. She gets +4 res when she waits. Not very useful at that point. Claude, I think, is going to go right here. I like Claude's class line the most. It might be the best in the game. Bows are the best weapon type. So he gets bow fair in a flying class. And flying is incredibly overpowered in this game as well. He also gets pass, which is cool. But on maddening, using pass can be pretty dangerous. And if you're a flyer, pass is less useful usually. So really, really good. Just really solid. He tends to grow well. Obviously, all the main characters are good. So I don't feel like there's much else to talk about here with Claude. I guess I'll mention Encloser. Encloser's a really good bow skill or combat art that locks an enemy down for a turn. It's basically like a gambit, but it only affects one person. And has a better hit rate generally, which is really cool. So yeah, Claude's insane. All 5 of these characters at the top are just absolutely busted, and they're going to make the game easier for you. All right. Hubert. Hubert, I have a hard time rating. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I'm going to say he's decent, meaning he's good at something. He's not going to make the game harder for you, but he doesn't like tip the scales in your favor too hard. His thing is he's just a magical nuke, right? He has a good offensive spell list. He gets Mire, which is really good. It's a 3-range spell, and he gets early, which is really nice. But it's not enough to make up for the lack of Physic or Fortify or Rescue or Warp. I think the best magic users in the game tend to have something like that. So yeah, Hubert is good, a good damage dealer, but that's about all he brings to the table, and he doesn't do it good enough to warrant a higher spot. Again, if you're playing Black Eagles and you're going to go Crimson Flower, might as well use him. He is good. He can still use Thyrsus, can still use the Caduceus Staff. and make good use of it. You know, you can have 5 range with Meyer, which is really great. So solid unit, just not like earth-shatteringly good. Dorothea. I'm gonna put Dorothea in the same place. I think she's pretty good. If her damage output was higher, I might put her in almost perfect. But she does have physic, which is also very nice. Really, you just want to stick magic. People will say that she's the best dancer in the game or whatever, but I don't really think that is a huge point in her favor, and I would argue that she's not the best dancer in the game. I think there's other characters that make better use of the skills. Also, if you want it for the dancing ability, which you generally do, everyone's a good dancer. There's not a bad dancer in the game if you can just use the dance. If you were just using dance and not worrying about the extracurriculars of the class, you know, being Sword of Void and that. If anything, Dimitri probably is the best user of Sword of Void. Him and like Ferdinand. So, anyways, yeah, Dorothea's good. She's not gonna break the game for you, but she's gonna be a good filler unit. Definitely a good filler unit. I like physical a lot. Physical alone makes her useful. All right, Ferdinand von Eyre is almost perfect. Ferdinand von Eyre is almost perfect. Swift Strikes is insanely good. You definitely want him in a class. You could either go either a flying class or something with Lancefare, like Paladin. I wouldn't worry about getting into Great Knight. It's a little too much work for what it's worth, and Paladin's just fine. But he's fine in really any physical class, and if you want to make good use of his personal skill, which is plus hit and avoid when at full HP, he's a good candidate for Sword of Void plus 20, which you get from Dancer. There's also a case you could make to put him through War Monk to get him Gauntlet of Void plus 20, and then you could do some shenanigans that way as well. But I think as far as you want like really good offense, you're going to want him to be something with Lancefare. I think that's just really important. So I think Ferdinand really shines as a combatant, but also really shines as an avoid tank or a dodge tank. I think he does a very good job of that. I can't really... The only major flaw I can think of is his recruitment is really miserable. He requires heavy armor, which you almost never want to put Byleth through heavy armor. I guess the only reason you'd ever do that is like weight -3 or something. But yeah, recruiting him is miserable. You can't get a B support with him until post time skip, meaning you can't auto recruit him. You know, he won't like just like randomly come talk to you and say, "Hey, can I join your team?" So that makes him a little more difficult to get on your team. But if you can, he's really great. Really solid unit. All right, Bernadetta. Bernadetta is decent. I think she is good at something. And that something is... people are going to get mad at me probably for putting her this low. I don't think Bernadetta deals not enough damage, but she can't deal damage safely in the way that makes her useful. So people want her to be like, oh, Persecution Complex is an incredible personal skill. And it is. +5 damage for just not being at full HP is insane. Vengeance, people will talk about. Yeah, Vengeance can deal lots of damage. But the problem with it is if she ever... we're talking about maddening here, of course. If she ever gets to a point where Vengeance is going to be strong, it's kind of hard to make use of it unless you're super careful. And, you know, I'll talk about Lysithea later, and people will be like, well, she has low defense too. You know, she dies in 1 or 2 hits. It's easier to keep a ranged unit safe. So Bernadetta, people are like, oh, yeah, Vengeance is so good. And it is. But I think she's better for her bow combat arts, and she gets Encloser. I think Encloser is the selling point of Bernadetta. Encloser is the selling point of Bernadetta. Being able to lock down a single enemy. You can even do like lockdown you know, demonic beast and stuff like that. Makes her incredibly useful for that. Just like it's basically just a long range single person gambit, like I talked about with Claude. Very good, very good. I personally would just throw her through, you know, Archer into Sniper, get Hunter's Volley, and make the best use of Encloser you can. I think that makes her very, very good. All right, Caspar. I think Caspar is going to be our first flawed character. Caspar really doesn't have anything that makes him super unique. Let's take a look at Caspar really quick. Let's take a look at his character sheet here. I'm not really worried about stats and stuff or magic, obviously. He does get Battalion Wrath, which is really good. But other than that, it's like, look at this combat art list. Mighty Blow, I believe it's a plus 10 damage combat art for brawling, which is okay. Bombard is like, triggers 2 consecutive hits. So essentially it's just 2 hits with plus 3 might, which isn't insanely good in my opinion. Exhaustive Strike is a huge meme. And then Wild Abandon is like, it's basically Gamble from earlier games, you know? Minus 30 hit is rough, especially on Madden. It's not usually going to be that good. So he just doesn't have anything that sets him apart. He doesn't have anything that makes him incredibly good, you know? So I have a hard time rating him any higher than I'm going to. Like, statistically, he can be all right, but I think stats are like the least important thing in this game. So, I mean, you need the stats, but you can make up for stats with different, like, you know, stat boosters and with different combat arts and with battalions, but you can't make up for a lack of good skills in combat arts. So yeah, I think he's a flawed character. I think using him over others will actively make the game harder for you. If you do want to use him, obviously just, you know, Wyvern Rider is probably his best class, but I don't know. You could probably do anything physical and he'd probably be fine. All right, Petra. Petra is going to go into decent/good at something. The thing she is good at, she can dodge tank with the best of them. That's really what it comes down to. Her strength is not good. Her strength is not good, but I believe she's tied for the highest speed growth in the game, meaning she'll actually be able to keep pace with a lot of the faster enemies on Maddening. Not like the crazy, like, 54 speed assassins in chapter 12 or whatever they are, or chapter 13 or 14, but she will be able to do some solid work for you in the dodge tank department. So I would say Petra's best pathing is to go flyer, get her into and ultimately end up in Falcon Knight, where they have avoid plus 10, you get alert stance plus, and just go to town. Let her dodge things for you. She would go into almost perfect if she had better damage output, but at this point her damage output is it's just not worth mentioning, you know? She's like, oh, I can double this guy, but she'll do, 2 times 2 or 0 times 2 is the joke, right? So if she dealt more damage, she would go into almost perfect, but she's good at dodge tanking and she's really good at it. And I think it helps a lot. Dodge tanking and tanking in general on Maddening is a luxury and should be taken advantage of. All right, Linhardt, almost perfect. Linhardt has an incredibly good spell list. I just wish his magic stat could keep pace and make it so he could make use of that spell list effectively. He just doesn't deal enough damage, and his warp range isn't quite long enough for me to really like him. He also gets warp at A, which is pretty standard, but since there is a character that gets it earlier, it's hard for me to not put that against him a little bit. So he's almost perfect. He is one of the better magic units in the game. He gets warp and physics, so he's a great healer, great utility, and again, good spell list. He's solid overall. Definitely just put him through magic classes. It sucks that there's no Dark Flyer for him or Gramarye for him, but Warlock is fine. And he can be fine there. Or I would honestly say Bishop is probably better for having to have 2 warps instead of 1. But really, it just depends on the map. So, yeah, I think that's fair to put him there. All right. Dedue would go... The more I hear people talk about Dedue, the more I'm like, you know what, fine. He's pretty freaking good. And I'm tempted to almost go basically flawless if he didn't disappear for a few maps. And they're the hardest maps in the game that he disappears for, right? So I think that's a huge ding in his favor. Vengeance is good. He is one of the few units in the early game of Maddening that are going to make it so that are going to be able to dodge tank a little bit. I have a hard time placing this guy. He can actually tank a little bit with his personal skill. And with, like, you give him a personal skill, you give him the early game +3 protection battalion, and just let him go, and like a leather shield or an iron shield or something, and then he just doesn't take damage, which is very good, right? So I'm thinking decent, like top of decent, maybe bottom of almost perfect. We're going to put him top of decent. I think he falls off at the end of the game. Partly because he disappears, but also I think his particular skill set, tanking and stuff like that, doesn't hold up for an entire maddening playthrough. I think he's incredible for your first like 5 to 6 chapters, but I think he falls off. So he's good for when the game is probably at its most difficult, aside from chapter 13 and 14. But yeah, I think he's decent. He's decent. Really, he usually gets relegated to guard adjutant status for me for Dimitri. Honestly, but which is like good, but anyone can do that. So yeah, I don't know. I think decent is where we're gonna leave him. All right, Felix. Felix is almost perfect. Put him like right there. No, I'm gonna put him here. Felix is almost perfect. Felix, the Crest of Feraldarius is stupid. It's just like +5 damage, and it like happens 40% of the time. And when he uses gauntlets or something, it happens on average, basically once per combat. Really awesome. Really, really powerful ability that is just unique to him. Just +5 damage randomly. I would say his best class is probably to go like War Master, Grappler. Gauntlets are just kind of his thing. That's what he does best with, in my opinion. Yeah. There's not a whole lot more to say for Felix other than he's just a really solid unit all around. His personal skill is a waste of space. I will say that. And he's not going to be able to... his speed's not going to be able to keep pace in Maddening. But like no one's is. There's very few characters that can keep up. And his damage output might be lacking towards the end. But that, again, can be fixed with some really good combat arts, like Fierce Iron Fist and stuff like that. So, Felix is really good. Felix is almost perfect. I just don't think I don't think his stats quite keep up for endgame. But other than that, he's solid. All right, Mercedes. I'm gonna say it. Mercedes is almost perfect. As far as a magic unit goes, she has everything you want. Except for rescue or warp. Other than that, she has it. She has both physic and fortify, which is awesome. She has a good magic stat. Her attack list is fine. Mercedes is good. She's going to make maddening easier for you. She is. She just is. She can heal like with the best of them. And her damage output is alright when needed. Alright. Freaking Ashe, dude. I think Ashe is our first deeply flawed character. The problem with Ashe is he just doesn't have anything special. There's nothing about him that's good. Everything about him is just okay. He is the most aggressively mediocre unit in the history of Fire Emblem. And in 3 houses, mediocrity equals bad. Especially on Maddening, you want to specialize. You want to have either like incredibly high defense or incredibly high avoid or incredibly high damage output. Being a unit that doesn't excel in anything and doesn't have any combat arts that stick out makes him pretty bad. I think using him over other units will make Maddening way harder for you. Much, much harder. I think a unit like Bernadetta or Ignatz have way more going for them, even though they are considered similar-ish in their roles. His personal skill will save you a couple 100 gold throughout your playthrough, I guess, but it's a couple 100 gold. by the end of Maddening and by the end of the game in 3 houses, you should be rolling in money. So yeah, pretty sad excuse for a unit, in my opinion. He's one of my favorite characters. I'm going to say that for you guys. He's one of my favorite characters, but as a unit, he doesn't have anything going for him. All right, Annette. Annette is a hard one for me. She's one of my personal favorite units in the game. And I could see her going in something like Flawed. But I think she is really good at a few things. She's good at rallying. Rallies are her thing, right? She starts off with rally strength, which is awesome, but then she also gets rally speed at C+. So getting the rally strength, rally speed combo is really good. In most instances, or I guess it would be 4 out of 5 times when you use rally strength and rally speed together, it equates to +5 attack speed because of how the weight mitigation formula works. So she essentially can give a unit, more often than not, can give a unit +5 speed and +4 attack. That's really, really good. Especially on maddening, it keeps you from getting doubled or can help you one round. I love that about Annette. She also has rally res and she gets rally move or something really late on, but like who cares about that? I just love rally strength and rally speed. She also gets Excalibur. It's really good. Good for, I think that really shines in like Silver Snow Endgame. But I had someone point out to me that like Excalibur makes me sad because it just, a bow does the same job, if not better. It's like fair, you know what? That's fair. But she's great for flyers, especially flying monsters. I think she is best off going something like, I would say she would be best off going like Dark Flyer or something. A lot of people like the meme build of putting her into Wyvern Lord and giving her Crusher, which is her personal, not her personal, but her relic weapon, like related to her crest. And it deals magic damage or whatever. I would say skip out on that. Just go Dark Flyer. Give her good mobility to be able to run around, heal with. She has Recover, which is basically a full heal on most characters. She has all the rallies, so just being able to run around and use those Canto away is really good for her. So I would say either go Dark Flyer or you can make a case for Valkyrie, but I prefer Dark Flyer for her, I think. Yeah, she's really good at rallying, and her damage output is like all right. But she doesn't have much else going for her, is the problem. All right, Sylvain. Sylvain's a hard one. I think I have to put him in basically flawless, though. He's the easiest unit in the game to recruit, so he's easy to have on every single playthrough of your game, as long as you're using female Byleth, of course. But I almost always use female Byleth because she's just better, generally. But Sylvain is insanely good. Swift strikes, solid stats, incredibly easy recruitment. You can even go for like magic builds and stuff. He gets Black Magic Void +20, which is fun if you want to work with that. He has some really cool stuff going for him as a unit. And his personal skill is really good too. He just gets extra damage and extra defense when next to a female unit. And I don't know if you've played 3 houses, but a lot of the best units in the game are female. And just a lot of the units are female. I think, is it like 50-50 in this game? It feels like it. It's close to that at least. So that's not a hard thing to do, to keep him around females. Really great unit. I can't think of anything that really makes him bad. Him and Ferdinand are actually incredibly similar. If Ferdinand were as easy to recruit as Sylvain, I think Ferdinand would be slightly better. All right, Ingrid is deeply flawed. On maddening, she's deeply flawed. She just can't keep pace, man. She might be fast. She's kind of like Petra, except for some reason it feels like to a more extreme degree. She's just weak. She doesn't deal damage. You know, maybe not deep. We'll put her in flawed. I think using her actively makes maddening harder, especially in-house. People like to talk about the whole, oh, you can, when you recruit her out of house, she gets the insane stat gains of the enemy Pegasus Knights and stuff, which is true. But I don't think it does enough to make up for, you know, her whole, you know, doing 0 damage thing. Especially late in the game. Her best use is going to be as a dodge tank. Honestly, I should probably put her and Petra like next to each other because they're basically the same unit. So I'm going to put Petra down here. For the same reasons. I don't know. Let's look. We could look at Ingrid really quick just to make sure I'm not forgetting something. Maybe I'm forgetting something that makes her like incredibly good. I don't think I am, though. Rally Magic is nice. Okay, I will say that. Hexblade, Hit and Run, Frozen Lance. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, she's pretty whatever. I will say recruiting her is pretty easy, though, because she wants flying, and flying is just really good. So it doesn't hurt to put Byleth into that. And her spell list is actually pretty sick. Physic and Seraphim are nice. Thoron is great, and then Fimbulvator is like an alright super magic attack. Overall, she's okay. Which we know in 3 houses means you're not that great. If she had higher strength or higher magic growth or base, I would say that she's better. The only thing that keeps her from going into deeply flawed is the ability to dodge tank. Her and Petra both kind of have that going for them. They easily become dodge tanks. Right. Hilda. Hilda's hard. I do like Hilda's personal skill. Giving +3 attack to male units and stuff is really good. But is it good enough? Like, and her combat's like all right, right? Like, she's like a decent unit otherwise. I think I have to put her at the top of decent. I don't think she has enough going for her to put her any higher. Let's look at her stat sheet really quick, just in case I'm forgetting something. Just in case. I don't want to be a big fat liar here and be like, oh wait, never mind, she's actually insane, you know. Yeah, she gets bolting. People like bolting. She gets battalion. Oh, she gets battalion wrath. That's actually pretty awesome. Still speed is whatever. Yeah, shatter slash, spike, and diamond axe, not the greatest. I think shatter slash is probably the standout here. Yeah. If I'm you, playing this game on Madden and trying to make it as easy as possible, I'm probably gonna put Hilda into like a flying class, right? That's definitely her best. She's not going to be your best, probably not going to be your best damage output. She doesn't have any crazy combat arts for that. And she's not the easiest to make like a dodge tank or something. Man, maybe she goes lower based on this criteria. No, her personal skill keeps her indecent at the very least. Her personal skill is really good. Her personal skill is insanely good. Never mind. She stays there. She's good. She's at least good at something. She's decent at a lot of stuff, but she is good at, you know, buffing allies. Okay. Lorenz. I think Lorenz is deeply flawed. Deeply flawed. Kind of like Ingrid. He's at odds with what he wants to be between like magic and physical. Again, let's look at his stat list, or his stat page, just to make sure I don't miss anything and lie to you guys. But this is pretty much how I feel. See, like his spell list is really cool. I really like Recover. Ward is really great for getting experience. He has some good attack magic. Like, this is solid. Frozen Lance is great for damage. Battalion Vantage is all right. But he doesn't have anything that really, like, he's not like, oh, look at my magic stat, it's incredibly high. Or look at my attack stat, it's incredibly high. Or look at my speed stat, it's incredibly high. He doesn't have anything like that. He's just, like, middling at everything. And like we talked about, kind of like with Ashe, when you're middling at everything, you're not great on maddening. I think it makes the game much harder to use a unit like that. He can play a filler role for you, but I don't think he's not gonna be like a mainstay in your army. You know, he's one of the first to replace for sure. Outside of doing some like Dark Knight with Frozen Lance build or something, I don't think he's great for damage. His healing is probably the best thing about him though. Recover is awesome, and if you can put him in a class with Canto that can heal, that's going to be a solid place for him. But I think Lorenz, outside of getting you Thyrsus, doesn't have much stake in staying in your army. I know it's going to make some people mad, though. Some people really like Lorenz. All right, Raphael, another... Man, is he deeply flawed or just flawed? I know the meme. I know the meme is that Goodie Basket's good and that I love Raphael, and I do. As a character, one of my favorites. He's really just... I relate to him on a spiritual level. But I think he's just deeply flawed, man. His thing is that he has really high HP. But enemies are strong enough that he just kind of gets bodied anyways. His strength can end up being good too. I think he gets 1-2 punch. Let me look to make sure I'm not lying to you guys about different things here. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? There he is. Hey, pal. Yeah, Magic List is hilarious. Rally Strength and Battalion Wrath are great. He doesn't get 1-2 punch. Never mind. I thought he did for some reason. Yeah, Monster Crusher's good. The other two are not. I'll be honest. Again, his thing is that he has incredibly high HP and his strength is going to be pretty good. But he's a liability outside of that. Your best bet is honestly, if you want to make the best use of him, it's probably to put him through Armor Knight. But that really hampers his ability to deal damage. If you want like a damage dealing Raphael, you definitely want to go, grappler. Get Fierce Iron Fist and blow through enemies that way. He also has Rally Strength, which is really good. You know what? No. He's at least in flawed. Makes maddening harder to use him over other units, but not like incredibly way harder. All right, guys. Here it is. This is the unit that I've always put near the top or at the top, and I still think she deserves it. I still think she deserves it. Lysithea has everything going for her that makes a magic unit good in this game. She's insanely good. The only thing she's missing is physic, but she doesn't even really need it because you have other units for that, right? But let's just look at her stat page to prove a point here. So I can be like, hey, look at this. This is why she's so good. I'm going to tell you why, okay? Because I think a lot of people misunderstand or underestimate how good she actually is. So you look at her stats. They're, 11 magic at bases. I think that's tied for the highest. And then 60% magic growth is tied for the highest. 50% speed is really good, but that's less important on maddening. Yeah, incredibly solid magic growth. That's all we care about here. She's going to have really high magic. Her spell list is insane. Miasma is basically, I think, is like worse fire personally, as far as hit rate goes. Swarm reduces enemy speed. Luna ignores enemy defense. Dark Spites is effective against cavalry, which is really good against Dark Knights and Holy Knights in the late game. People always talk about the Death Knight, but Dark Knights and Holy Knights in the late game are incredibly painful to deal with. They have great defensive stats, both defense and resilience. So having someone that can deal heavy damage to them without, with just like a base attack is really good. Hades and Abraxas are both just really big spells. Warp, with her insane magic growth and stat, she's going to have incredible warp range. Seraphim, great for monsters. She just has all of the right utility spells. The only thing she's missing is like a 3-range spell, but that doesn't even matter. Because guess what? Thyrsus and Caduceus staffs exist. The two of the best items in the game. So with Thyrsus, which you should be trading around to all your magic units, by the way. You should be like trading it around and using it as much as possible. Because being able to attack safely with magic is I honestly think it's key to having success in 3 houses on maddening. Makes the game way easier. Now, the thing that people always complain about, oh no, her defense. Base 3 defense with a 10% growth. Her defense is crap. It's bad. Her res isn't even that good. I get it. I get it. But again, with Thyrsus and Caduceus, she should not be taking counterattacks. She just shouldn't. And I like to throw her into Valkyrie, which gives her another +1 range. So that plus Thyrsus, attacking from 5 spaces away, there's nothing that can counterattack that except for like enemies with distant counter, Death Knight, Edelgard, stuff like that. She's just insane, guys. She's insane. And that's not even to mention her personal skill. Her personal skill or personal ability, which for some reason isn't popping up here easily to see for me because I'm dumb. Anyways, I think it's called Prodigy or something like that. She gets double class and weapon experience in battle. She's going to master things super quick. She's going to get Fiendish Blow faster than pretty much anyone. Her damage output's just insane, guys. That plus Warp is enough for me to say that she's probably the best magic user in the game. There's only 2 other ones that even come close for me. Insane spell list. Insane stats. Just don't let her get hit. That's the answer. Just don't let her get hit. Honestly, my heart wants her to be more like here. But I know that that's probably not correct and make people mad. So, Ignatz. Okay, here we go. This one's probably going to throw people. Ignatz is almost perfect. Ignatz is almost the perfect unit for maddening. He gets plus 20 hit at base from his personal ability, which is insane. If you want to go overboard, and I don't even think it's overboard, I think it's just really nice, give him another plus 20 for Mastering Archer. He just doesn't miss things. Even gambits. He'll hit all his gambits and stuff too. Ignatz is great for that. I will say his only imperfection is that his damage output might be lacking. In the early game, give him a steel bow that mitigates that. And then as the game goes on, you'll get Hunter's Volley and hopefully Fiendish and hopefully Death Blow, and that'll help a lot. Ignatz is insanely good, guys. Don't sleep on my boy Ignatz. He also gets Rally Speed quickly. He does eventually get the Rally Speed, Rally Strength combo, but it's not till later. So he doesn't do that quite as well as Annette. But his ability to hit things is what sets him apart. Marianne. Marianne, to me, is basically just Dorothea. Put her in Dark Flyer, let her heal things. She's going to be a great healer unit for your team. Leonie. Leonie is almost perfect for me. I'm going to put her here. Point Blank Volley is really awesome. I wish she got it earlier, but she doesn't get it early enough. Outside of that, though, she can be a great dodge tank. She can be a decent damage dealer. It really just depends on how you want to build her, and she can fill whatever role you need her to. She can even be a decent magic unit, funny enough. She gets Physic, which is enough to make you okay. So, Leonie's good. Leonie's really, really good. Don't sleep on Leonie. I find the most success putting her through, of course, the Archer class lines. Bow Knight is actually solid for her. She's one of the few units where leaving Sniper for Bow Knight is actually kind of worth it sometimes. Just because using Point Blank Volley can kind of mitigate the loss of Hunter's Volley. She's an incredible unit, though. She's always going to be solid. And again, she has great speed, so she can be a dodge tank and stuff, too, if you put her into, Flyer. I really actually like her as, a Falcon Knight with a bow. It's one of my favorite builds for Leonie. What sets her apart from Ingrid and Petra, though, who are, the other, super fast, dodgy, flying characters, is that she, again, has decent damage output and a good combat art. Okay. Ooh. Manuela. She's decent. She has warp. It's hard for me to say she's bad. That's about all I have good to say about her. So, Manuela has warp. Woohoo. Hanneman. I think Hanneman, honestly... Oh, is he deeply flawed? I don't know. He's a lot like Hubert, right? Hanneman and Hubert are very similar units in my mind. And we're going to put him... Let's go look at Hanneman's stat page, just to make sure. Make sure of our feelings here, shall we? Let's look at Hanneman here. His spell list. I wish he got Physic. If he got Physic, he would definitely be higher. I don't really care about Schism Shot or Ward Arrow, whatever. His magic is insane with 55% growth. Yeah. I think... And he comes with Rally Magic, which is cool, which is +1 Warp range or +1 Rescue range. Yeah, I think I have to put him here. I think I have to. He acts very similarly to Hubert in that he is a solid damage dealer, but he also has Rally Magic and stuff, which is cool. And I like his spell list. I don't think it's as good as some other characters. Let's take a look at it one more time, just so I'm not wrong. Thoron is great. Sagittae is great for hitting things. I just wish he was a slightly better healer. And Meteor's all right. So, yeah, he's decent. Catherine is basically flawless. And so is Shamir, and really for the same reason. You can recruit them incredibly early, and they come with at least the base stats of Swordmaster and Sniper, respectively. So Catherine and Shamir just, they come ready to go. They come ready to beat the game for you. And they have great stats to begin with. And Shamir has incredibly quick access to Hunter's Volley. And Catherine has just access to great stats. And then also comes with Thunderbrand. And she's just really good, man. If you recruit them early, they are basically flawless. If you wait a long time to recruit them, they get worse and worse. So the earlier you can recruit them, the better. At base, I believe, at base support, they, or no support, I should say, they require I believe it's level 15 Byleth to recruit, but that can be lowered significantly to like level 10 with a couple support ranks, which isn't hard to do. You just give them a bunch of gifts and have dinner with them or whatever. And then they're like, oh, hey, yeah, let's be on the same team. So great units, incredible units, some of the best. Some of the best in the game. All right, Alois. I think Alois is like deeply flawed. He makes the game harder. He does get like 1-2 punch and stuff like that, I think. Let me double check so I'm not lying to you. One of my lesser used units. Rally strength, cool. Battalion wrath, cool. 1-2 punch, underrated. It basically is it's the way it works, 1-2 punch. It's a combat art that sets your speed to be 4 higher than the enemies. So essentially it makes it so you can't get doubled. That's basically what it does. It makes it so you can't get doubled. Exhaustive Strike is a huge meme. Don't care about it. Mighty Blow is alright. Plus 10 damage combat art. It's cool. But 1-2 punch is really his big selling point, I think. But outside of that, he's just like, okay. Yeah. He's just going to be an okay unit. I do like that he joins in with the ability to be a guard adjutant, though, regardless of when you recruit him. You can just become a armor knight. So that's cool. Gilbert, deeply flawed. His stats are trash. He joined super late. He's just worse to do. He's supposed to be like a Dedue replacement, I think. All right, Cyril. I don't know what it is about Cyril, man. He has everything that should make everything he has should make him good. You know what I mean? Point blank volley, vengeance. When you're able to recruit him, he can go directly into brigand to get death blow. He has all these things that are so good about him that should make him almost perfect. But there's just something about him statistically that doesn't do it for me. He just never quite gets there. I'm going to put him at the top of decent. I think he has the tools to be insanely good, but he requires a good bit of work. You know, I can't good coach. I have to put him like here or like here. Now we'll put him at the bottom of decent. He has all the tools to become incredibly good, but he requires a lot of work. His stats just aren't up to par when he joins, and you're gonna have to really work with him to get him there. I hate his personal skill aptitude. They don't make his growth rates insanely high. They just make them kind of like on the better side of the rest of the game. Not like even the best, but like good. And then just, it basically robs him of like an actual good personal skill. So he's decent. I would say throw him into like, you know, sniper or something, or wyvern lord, or I don't know. He can really do good in a lot of physical classes. Just make sure he has a bow or a lance in his hand and he'll be fine. Because again, vengeance and point blank volley are really good. Flayn. Flayn's decent. Flayn's decent. Fortify is fine. It's good. I'd rather have physic, but fortify's good, and rescue's good too. So if it weren't for rescue and fortify, she would be should probably be a little lower. Sedith. I'm gonna put. He's gonna go in almost perfect. If he joined earlier, he would be basically flawless. But he doesn't join until way late in the game. I do like Swift Strikes, of course, is insanely good. His personal skill is great. He also gets rally defense, which is a little talked about thing about him, but rally defense is really good. But I think his biggest selling points are Swift Strikes and his personal skill, which buffs female units. So he has really good potential as a support unit as well as just a straight up attacker. And he comes on a wyvern, so being able to fly right away is really good too. Oh, that was loud. Sorry about that. But yeah, Sedith is great. All right, Yuritsa. Similar to Sedith, he has everything going for him except for a late join time. All right, Yuri. I think Yuri's almost perfect, man. I think he's almost perfect. Windsweep is really good, but I wish he had better damage output. But Wind Sweep is really good, and he gets it really early. Also, free recruitment is never a bad thing. So his only real flaw is that he might struggle to deal really meaningful damage at the end of the game, but up until then, he's really useful. Byleths has really great damage output potential, especially with his personal, so it's hard for me to say anything besides he's almost perfect. Happy has the single best spell list in the game. Let's just look at it. She has the single best spell list in the entire game. So good that it just puts her above almost every other unit in the game. Like, statistically, her magic is never going to be as good as Lysithea's or Constance's, but with Miasma, Swarm, and Banshee are all great. Miasma's whatever. Swarm is great. Banshee lowers enemy movement, which is incredible. Death is a 3-range spell that's high crit, and Hades is big damage. Otherwise, she gets Warp, Seraphim, and Physic, which are, if I had to choose 3 magic faith spells to give to a unit, those would be it probably. Seraphim is kind of redundant on her because her personal ability makes it so she always does effective damage to monsters, but I don't know. It's still just a high accuracy, high damage spell, so I'll take it. Yeah, she's incredibly solid for her spell list alone. Her only slight problem is her less than excellent magic stat, but it's still going to be really good generally. Finally, we have Constance. Constance is probably going to go you know what? No, Constance goes here. Constance goes here. She's going to be, she's probably the 3rd best magic unit in the game. Really quick, let's go look at her stats, because why not? Let's go look at her spells and everything. .60 magic. She ties Lysithea in magic, basically, which is really good. Her spell list is almost as good as Lysithea's. I think Bolting is a really cool little niche she has. Rescue is not as good as Warp, but if you pair it with her being like a Dark Flyer or something, it can be really good. So she has really good damage spells. She just misses out on having the utility damage spells like Lysithea and Happy. You know, she doesn't have a Dark Spikes type of thing. She doesn't even have like Excalibur for dealing effective damage to flyers. She doesn't have something like, she doesn't have a 3 range and like Meyer kind of thing or Thoron. So she just misses out on having some good effective spells and just things that allow her to stand out on the spell list front. It's just a really good damage output spell list, but not great for specific situations. And her rescue range is going to be really good, just like Lysithea's warp range is really good. So yeah, I think she's incredible. All right, we only have one more unit left. I forgot to put her on the list, but thankfully I remembered she exists. Anna. Anna is deeply flawed. Anna is deeply flawed almost entirely for one reason. She doesn't have enough supports. If Anna had supports, her hit rates and all that would be more reliable. But without supports, you really feel that on maddening. She has a lot of different tools that you think would make her good, but there's too much holding her back. She has a really bad personal skill. Again, the lack of supports. Statistically, she doesn't shine in any area. She's just kind of okay at everything. She does get rescue. She does get pass, so she has that going for her, but she doesn't have anything beyond that, in my opinion. So, yeah. There you go. There's my final 3 houses tier list. This is what I think about the characters and who makes it easier to beat maddening. So if you want to beat maddening, I would say always use Byleth, of course. Always make good use of Byleth. Always make good use of the main character of the route. And then from there, I think you really want to focus on getting some good magic in Lysithea or Happy and Constance. I think Sylvain's a really solid pickup. And of course, Catherine and Shamir make chapters 4, what can make chapter 5 and 6 a lot more bearable. Beyond that, I think if you want to pick up anyone in Almost Perfect, I think Ignatz is definitely best in-house, but you're welcome to pick him up otherwise. Linhardt's a good pickup for healing and for warp. And of course, the other Ashe Wolves you might as well grab because they're free. And then anyone past that, everyone in Decent, is like you could pick them up if they want you, if you want the help from them or you need someone to fill a role, but they aren't super necessary to be making the game easier. And then anyone after that, I think actually makes the game harder if you're using them in place of someone else. Now, this is just my opinion. Make sure to share yours in the comments. What did I get wrong? I would love to hear it. I honestly would love to hear your thoughts on this. This is probably and hopefully the last time I'll ever do a Three Houses tier list, except for maybe like years and years away. But for now, this is the last time I'm doing it. Again, until a very long time. So leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. I can't wait to read them. Make sure to like the video, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch you next time, friends.